All right, we are back. Okay, so I did some reading since last stream, and I did figure out what the problem with the gimbal lock was. Well, I knew gimbal lock was a problem, but I figured out how to fix it. I tried I tried to do it on my own, and that did not go well, so I had to resort to looking at some forum posts, and the answer was a lot simpler than what I thought it was. What I was attempting to do, well, originally I was just taking global rotation and I was just adding the pitch and the yaw to it. So just doing that. That does not work because you run into gimbal lock, which I am not going to attempt to give the technical explanation of how it works, but essentially you lose a degree of freedom is what gimbal lock is. When you're working with Euler angles or Euler angles, however you want to say it, if you orient in just the wrong way, which is surprisingly easy to do in a lot of situations, especially when you're working with a multiple degree of freedom spaceflight game, you can end up losing the ability to turn in one of those axes until you undo the alignment that's causing that. There's a really bad explanation. Yeah, it's above me. The point is, you lose a degree of freedom. The way I've been taught to do that in the past is to use quaternions, which is something that Godot has. The thing is, quaternions are not particularly intuitive to work with. They're kind of a pain in the ass. So I tried to do that myself, could not get it to work. It kept freaking out. Eventually, I realized through a forum post that you could just use global rotate. And global rotate will internally calculate it for you so that you don't get gimbal lock. So now that is working correctly. I'm going to comment that out for a demonstration, but if we go in and we start the game and I go straight up, it does not freak out anymore. And I can go up and then I can turn, and that works just fine, no problems, we're good. The other thing I did while I was at it is I wanted to add automatic realignment. So this is something a lot of the space shooters I've played that are in 3D have, where even though you're in space, there is effectively an up and a down, and the game will periodically realign your ship so that your ship is pointing in the up direction. And I think that's just to kind of help keep your bearings. That's my understanding of why it's done. So, man, I hate when that happens. Accidentally type a key in. There we go. Okay. So I've kind of implemented that, and the way I've done it is that the game is checking how much you're pushing the joystick, and if you let go of the joystick, it will attempt to realign the ship vertically. So you can see there, I'm not touching anything, it just went back. And we can do the same thing if I go upside down and I can see the horizon and I let go of the stick, it flips back up the other way. And I've got that configurable to how fast it does it and how aggressive it is about it. So if I come down here to this small moon, I boost over to it, and well, I didn't intend to hit it. I can circle around it pretty easily. Well, actually, maybe this isn't working as well as I thought it did, because it just automatically realigned while I was going beside it. Oh yeah, that's actually kind of freaking out on me. Well, that was the point I was ultimately getting at, is I'm not really sure that this is a good idea for this game in particular. It's not hard to do, but the problem is it kind of feels like it's fighting me, which I'm not liking as a player. Anytime I feel like I'm having to constantly nudge the stick, that's not good, because you're actively having to fight the game to do what you want. So if I come back over here, I may have tweaked something and forgot I did, because it was working a little better than this before. Okay, so there we go, it flips me. And now if I try to circle around this moon, we just go around the top. Yeah, okay, that's more or less working that time. Yeah, you can kind of see I can keep close to it and keep circling around it, but it's more or less trying to keep me aligned to the horizon. But yeah, so the good news is that's toggleable. I can turn it on or off. What I might do is, instead of having it detect the player's input, and how much input they're providing, I might just make it a key that automatically realigns you. So you just tap it and get realigned. Okay, where is the moon? How did I lose a moon? There we go. Yeah, so this one is not automatically realigning. Yeah, that feels a lot easier to work with. The only problem is that you can end up kind of sideways, and there's no automatic way to fix that. You're just kind of stuck sideways. Okay, well, either way, the point of all that is that the player input is effectively done. Obviously, I need some screen shake and some sound effects and things like that for the ship, but I think I'm happy enough with where that is that I'm not going to worry about it. There's a couple points I need to do, and then we're going to get into combat. So first is the boost. If I hit boost, it will just keep going indefinitely. I need a way to transition in and out of boost based on how much the boost meter is. Which it occurs to me I really did not need state machines for this. But whatever, I've got them. I'm not going to go back and undo that now. What I do need is a boost component, which is basically just your fuel tank. And that will keep track of how much boost energy you have. And then the states can use that to determine whether or not you're allowed to boost. So we'll get into that. And minimize some of these folders here so I can see what the heck I'm doing. All right, and we will do a new folder. Actually, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a new components folder. And we are going to drop that into there. And we will do, just call it boost for the folder name. And we'll do a script. And we'll just call it maybe boost tank. There we go, and we'll just make it a node. So the idea here is that in the game, you can equip additional tanks to increase how much boost you have before it needs to recharge. I don't know whether or not I'm going to make the recharge rate something that you can modify, but at least the amount of boost you can have. Well, actually, now I say that out loud, I'm actually not sure if capacity is even what I want, or if I want recharge rate, because I intend on having the boost be a way that you can avoid enemies. So if you can, well, now I guess that's fine. But either way, this thing needs to track the boost value and then reduce it as it goes down. So it's going to need to hook into the inventory system, but at least for the moment, I'm not going to worry about the inventory. What I'm going to do now is just internally give it a amount of boost that it can store. So we will do an export and do var boost time, and we'll just define this as how many seconds of boost that you have. And we'll say, like, I don't know, 2.0, and we'll do export var boost recharge rate. And that will be how many seconds per second it refills. So we'll do, I don't know, 0.1. I'll just start off with that. And then eventually I want to have a minimum boost where if you fully drain the boost, you have to wait a certain amount before you can use it again. But we'll figure that out as we go. So what I need is the boost recharge. I probably also want a delay for when you use the boost and then let go of it. But we'll worry about that as we go. I think the way I want to implement this, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what I want to do is have the boost be something that gets toggled on and then it has to be turned back off, as opposed to something that you actively subtract every frame. Maybe. That might work. So we'll do var boosting goal equals false. And we'll do var boost time. Or we'll do remaining boost. And we'll call that base boost time. And we'll keep that way. And then what we will do in the physics process, try and keep as much stuff in physics process as I can so all the interpolation works correctly. We will just say if boosting, and at least for the moment we're going to do this the simple way. We'll just say remaining boost time equals clamp f, remaining boost time minus delta, and then the min will be 0.0 and the max will be then the max will be, I don't know, what will we say? Max boost time. There we go. Okay. That kind of works, but it does have a little bit of a problem. It's going to be difficult for the other components to know whether or not the boost has run out. I could do a signal for that, or I could use a function that returns it. I think I might actually just use a function. So we'll do consume boost. And we'll do time. And we'll have that return true if it was able to use at least some of that boost. Okay, so if remaining boost time, we'll say is 0 approximate. If not, then we will run that logic and then return true. So even if you only have like 0.1 seconds of boost and it tries to consume 0.2, it'll still let you have it because we're dealing with delta times here, so it really doesn't matter. Otherwise, return false. So if you don't have any boost remaining, that won't work. All right. Okay, so I don't need that boosting. I probably will need to add some state logic to this, but whatever. We'll get to that. At least for the moment, this just allows me to get that. And then the other thing I want to have is a function for get boost ratio, or get remaining boost ratio. So what that will do is return how much boost total you have. And I'm going to use this to hook into the UI. I probably am not going to display in the UI how many seconds of boost you have. I don't think that's really necessary. So we will just say that'd be remaining boost divided by the max boost. And I'll add some logic once I get the inventory system to increase the max boost. But at least for now, that should work. I probably will want some kind of signal to indicate when you've completely run out so that I can have the UI flash or do something to tell you that you're out, since people are not generally staring at the progress bar. But, well, I think that's enough to start. So we'll come over here and we will add boost tank component. And we'll just drag that up there. Okay. Let's see, what can I do here? Let's see, what can I do? We will go into the states, and I'm gonna make a function. We're just gonna make this the easy way, and we'll say func can boost. Remaining boost time is greater than 0.0. And eventually we may incorporate the cooldown into that, but we'll just bring that over. And in here, we'll export our boost tank. And we'll say if is boosting and boost tank dot can boost. Then we'll switch to the boosting state. And then in the boost state, we're gonna actually get the delta time back. And we will say if boosting I will do, well, yeah, okay, so I need to come over here, grab the boost tank again. And I will try to remember this time to actually assign these in the inspector. So we'll do boost tank dot consume boost delta. Okay. If boosting and consume, and we'll actually throw a not around that. So if the player isn't, so if they're not boosting or they cannot boost or consume boost is not. Yeah, okay. That should work, I think. I'm trying to do that logic in my head, but we'll try it out. Okay, so then the other thing I want to do is in here, I'm going to temporarily connect this HUD since the actual HUD is meant to be displayed in 3D. I'm going to temporarily grab the boost bar on player, and we're just going to connect that really quick. And we're also going to grab the boost tank and connect it as well. Right. And then we'll just throw this in process. We will do boost bar dot value equals boost tank dot get remaining boost ratio. There we go. And we don't need the delta for that. That's fine. Okay, cool. And it occurs to me the boost tank does not recharge yet, so we'll add a recharge to that. Yeah, this is where the boost tank becomes a little bit problematic because it needs to know whether or not it can recharge. And the trick here is you can't just necessarily set a variable because the process order of these nodes can be problematic. But at least for the moment, we'll see how this goes. So if we just start, we're at 100% boost. Oh, and attempting to boost crashed it. Cool. Oh, dang it. I forgot. It was the inspector again. Oh, and I said I wasn't going to do that. Oh, I'm sad. Okay. Try that again. Okay, there we go. Yeah, at least it's counting down. Yeah, okay, and we're definitely slowed down again. That's good. All right. Okay. So now I need to figure out the recharge system. Okay. I think I am going to use signals for this because that's going to make it easier for the state machine to handle, I think. I think I'm going to have it so you start a boost and then end a boost. And that way the state machine can just start and stop the boost as needed. Okay. So how am I going to do that? I need to come in here and say var, well, we're going to do a state for this. So we will do enum boost tank state, and we'll say idle, boosting, recharging, oh, we'll say ready, actually. Okay, so then we'll come down here and we'll do var state boost tank state equals boost tank state dot ready. Okay. And I'm just going to detect the state instead. Ready equals state. Or I'll say if we're already boosting, you can still boost. Or actually, there's a little tip. There's a quicker way you can do this. You can do state in, and then you can do an array. That works just as well. Okay, so we have the boost ratio. That's fine. Okay. And we'll just call this method boost. And what will we call that? That's gonna get mad at me, but we'll just deal with that for a minute. There we go. Activate boost. We'll call it that. And we will say if the state is ready or boosting. Oh, I guess we'll just say if the state is ready. Then we will transition into the boost state. Oh, actually, what I need to do is if boost, then do that. Else. So releasing the boost should immediately switch you to recharge. So for that, we'll say if or actually, what would I say? This is probably cooldown. Cooling down. Okay, so if the state state's gonna get a little complicated here. So I would say if we're in cooldown, you can't just immediately transition to ready. Yeah, this one actually gets a little complicated. So if I guess all we need to do, well, Okay, so what we need to say is if we have boost capacity, so if the remaining boost is greater than 0.0, then we will set the state to ready again. And we'll just say at the moment that there isn't an additional state. And I'm not going to bother having a return value on that anymore. Okay, so if you pass true, that will start a boost by checking if ready and then set boosting equal to true. Otherwise, it will return. Well, actually, what I can do here is say if can boost. That's even better. Else, if the remaining time is greater than 0.0, go to ready. So we're just ignoring the cooling down state for the moment. And we'll just have it instantly recharge. And we will ditch, well, what we'll do here is do func physics process. If the state is boosting, then we will consume boost, and we'll just make that private. Okay, there we go. And then that will return true if we're using boost, otherwise not. So if not, then we will transition automatically back to the ready. Well, actually, okay, so that will need to transition automatically. We'll just transition it back to ready, I suppose, for now. Which is somewhat problematic. That's not really the right way to do this, but because ready implies you can immediately boost again. Okay, this is really mad at me here. We'll fix that. Okay. All right. So if boosting, we consume boost. And if we are not able to, we go back to ready. Or in this case, probably cooling down would be the appropriate one to go back to. And then here, if we are not, then we need to recharge. So func recharge. And we will do delta again. And effectively the same code, just with a different context. All right, so if that is less than the max boost time, then remaining boost equals remaining boost plus delta, actually plus the recharge rate times delta. And the max is still that. And we'll say false and true if it's recharged. Okay. So then if recharge, so if we are fully recharged, then we will go back to the ready state. Right? Okay. I think what we'll do there is do cooling down instead. All right, so if it's greater than 0, it goes back to ready. Else, we will go to cooling down. Okay, so even in the ready, it will attempt to recharge. All right, let's see if I broke anything. Yeah, I broke stuff. I thought I did. Consume boost. Oh, right, yeah, because I changed that. All right, so default state is just checking can boost. That's fine. Boost state should enter boost in here. So we'll do boost tank. Activate boost true. And then I'll put in its exit. All right, and in here we will do boost tank dot activate boost false, and that way we shut down the boost whenever we leave. And in here we'll just say if player is boosting, and what would I say, can boost. Okay. So now every frame it will make sure that it can still boost. So we'll go back to here and double check this. So if it's boosting and it can't consume the boost, then it will go back to cooling down. Else, if it can recharge, elif recharge, it will go back to ready. Can boost, we'll check if we're ready or boosting. Activate boost. Okay, so and we'll check if we're currently boosting here. Okay. That way we don't overwrite the state if we weren't boosting. And if we're currently boosting, then we'll switch back to one of these other states. Okay. Oh, that's weird. Why is it decrementing in noticeable chunks like that? Oh, you know what? I know why it's doing that. It's because I'm using the physics tick rate is really low. I had that set really low to test some things. Okay, let's just temporarily bring that back up to 60 and see what happens. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, yeah, there we go. And this is your ability to get away from certain enemies that are able to just keep, or that will attempt to follow you is the plan. So increasing that basically gives you more attempts to dodge. Okay. Let me just double check something. If I make the boost recharge 1 second, it should only take 2 seconds to fully recharge, right? I don't think the boost is disabling whenever I let go. Or maybe it is. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. Seems to be working now. We've got boosting working the way it should be. More or less. There does seem to be a problem where I can't start boosting again until it fully refills. That's problematic. Oh, no. No, I can go. Or no, it's if it goes all the way down. Yeah, okay. I can't make it boost until it fully exits. Honestly, I might just leave it like that. I think that's kind of what I intended to do anyways. I might want a custom cutoff, like it has to recharge 50% or something. But at least at the moment, fully recharging is fine. I am going to need some kind of indication in the HUD, though, to tell you that it's cooling down and that you've overused it. Yeah, because right now it's not clear that that's any different from a normal recharge. Okay, yeah, that's fine. All right. Okay. So, with regards to that, I do need to do a little bit more work on it, I think, because it seems like it's boosting for a lot longer than it should be, and I need to figure out why it's doing that. Because I should only have 2 seconds of boost. But it feels like I actually have like 5 or 6 maybe. Let's take a look at that. What's going on here? So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Yeah, it's like 4 seconds. Why do I have 4 seconds of boost when the timer's only supposed to be 2 seconds? What is going on there? Okay. Let's see if we can figure out what might be causing that. My immediate thought is that it might be recharging while I'm using it, which would be interesting. That would be strange. I'm not entirely certain that's what's going on here, though. Yeah, that's really weird. Why is it using more boost than it's supposed to be? So it's consume boost, which is delta. And we're just subtracting delta, which is a time, from the remaining boost, which should only be 2 seconds. Yeah. And the recharge rate is also set to 2 seconds, so it should recharge at the same rate that it's draining. So if we measure that, that's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4. That is not 2 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3. Yeah, why is it 3 seconds? What the heck did I break? How is it taking 3 seconds to recharge a 2-second boost? I wonder if this is some floating point precision nonsense going on here. Just for checks, let's change this to be 1 second of boost. Let me double check that I am correctly setting max boost to just 1. Yeah, everything's clamping the time to 1. Okay, yeah, alright, we'll see. What's going on here? So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Yeah, okay, now it's 2 seconds. Interesting. That's a new one. You know what? I wonder, actually, if I come in here into the player and I move this to physics process, I wonder if what I'm seeing is some interpolation stuff with the UI. All right, let's try that in physics process and see if it helps. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. No. 1 Mississippi. Yeah, okay. It does not matter how slow you count. That is not 1 second. Okay. I do think it is recharging at the same rate it's spending, though, so I think at least that's working. But why is the boost tank Okay, see, now I'm curious. If I set that to 0.1, is it still going to be 1 second longer? Or is it going to be 0.2 seconds now? Okay, let's see. Oh, no, okay, that actually is 0.1. Interesting. I've never run into that issue before. I would almost guarantee, though, that this is some kind of floating point precision issue where at that time scale, delta is not actually adding up to 1 second over 60 frames or whatever. Well, at least it seems to be consistent, so I think I can design around this and not worry about it. I'm just going to have to bear in mind that the number is not literally the number of seconds like I intended it to be. It's something else. Okay, cool. All right, that's working. So, or I guess it could be, maybe the game's running slow. That might be what's happening. Although that would be a little strange. All right, I'm going to come back in here and we're going to change the tick rate back down to 10, just so that I can remind myself that there's an interpolation bug I need to fix. So I think that means that the boost component is done. I am going to need some hooks into the UI to indicate whenever it is in cooldown mode. And of course now we get that stair stepping because of the interpolation, but that's fine. Okay. Yeah, so the only thing the UI is going to need to know is whenever a cooldown mode is started or whenever it's normally boosting. So what it needs is some indication that the state has changed, is what it needs. So probably what I should do is everywhere I'm assigning state, I should replace that with a function that emits a signal to indicate that the state has changed. So we will do signal state changed, and we will just include the state. And then we'll just go ahead and add a private function for change state. All right. And we will take in the new state as a boost tank state. And we will just set it equals state, and then we will do state changed dot emit, and we'll emit our state. I could do that deferred, but I think I'm going to leave it fine like that. So then in here we'll just replace this, and we'll use ready there. And where else am I directly setting state? Okay, just in here. All right. And we'll use ready. And we'll use cooling down. All right, perfect. So now that should be emitting signals that the UI can use to update itself. I'm not going to plug those into the UI right now, though, because the UI is meant to be an actual 3D UI. It's not meant to be the HUD overlay that I've got for debugging, so that's just going to clutter this code if I plug it in at the moment. So we will leave that be for now and focus, I think, on the weapon system. So my plan is to have two different weapons for the ship. A basic rapid fire blaster that will just keep firing as long as you hold the trigger, but is low damage output. And then a bomb which will get launched out and detonate whenever it gets within range of a ship or some number of seconds after it's been launched. And the range part is just to help with aiming, because inevitably you're not going to be able to hit an enemy that consistently. So I'll just give it some radius that it'll detonate. So I think the way I want to do this is have a weapon interface where you can just call shoot and it will do whatever it needs to do, and then that way the player doesn't need to know how it works. Because also the other thing too is that the weapons need to pull from the inventory in the ship. So my thought is that the bombs are going to be a physical item you have to load into the ship's inventory, and they take up space in the inventory grid. So the bomb weapon is going to have to query the inventory to see if it has a bomb available and remove one. Whereas the machine guns, you can set their maximum capacity in the inventory. You can basically carry additional ammo in, but they don't directly pull their ammo from the inventory. Their ammo, it just sets whatever their maximum ammo is at the start of the level. It's like carrying blank magazines with you. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is do a script for that. So we will do a new folder for weapons, and ideally I want to reuse this with the enemy ships as well. So I'm going to try to write this in a way that works with both. So we will do a node 3D. Okay, and then we will just call this like abstract weapon. And make that abstract. I could use duck typing for this, but I don't really think there's a good reason to use duck typing when there's really only going to be two kinds of weapons in the game, and they both have the same functions anyways. May as well just use the interface. So in this case, it's going to need some way to tell it to shoot, but the trick is that bombs are not rapid fire, but the machine gun is. So the machine gun needs to keep shooting as long as you hold the button down. But the bomb, if you hold the button, it should only fire when the button first goes down. So I think what I'm going to do is have a shoot function that you call every frame. And internally the weapon is going to check, was it pressed last, or did you call this last frame, or is this the first time you pressed it? And that way I can keep it working. Okay, so we will do abstract func shoot. Okay, and then I'm also going to need some way of getting ammunition out of the weapon system, but I don't think ammunition is universal. I think I'm going to have each weapon be a separate node under ship, and then I'll hook them independently into the UI, because the bombs are going to need to check whether or not you have ammo from the inventory, and the machine gun is going to have to check itself to see if it has ammo. So there's not, well, nah, I think I am still going to stick with it like that. I'll just give each one independent ammo reporting functions. I do probably need a way to check if you can shoot though. So we will do can shoot. And that would be in case you've run out of ammo. And that's mostly for the user interface. So I can just indicate to the user that, you know, mainly the bomb weapon is disabled. Although I guess you could run out of machine gun ammo too. Okay. Now the interesting thing is how aiming is going to work. Because this is a first-person game, and aiming gets weird in first-person games. Because the reticules don't really work that way in real life. A reticule always has a range. Even on a real gun, a dot on a gun is only good to a certain range, because the dot isn't literally in the barrel of the gun. There's always a point where the line coming from the dot to the line coming out of the barrel will intersect. And the further you are from that inflection, or that crossover point, the worse the sighting is. But in a first-person shooter game, it's usually the player's expectation that that sight is infinitely perfect to the alignment of the gun. But if you're shooting the gun from either side, you know, and that's fine if you're shooting the gun from dead center on the camera, but that's almost never how you do it. You're usually firing the gun from the side or from the bottom or wherever else, if it's a vehicle or something, which means you have to calculate where you're supposed to be shooting. The way I've done that with past games is I would send a ray out from the camera right through the reticule, infinitely forward, find wherever it hit, and then record that position and tell the gun to shoot at that position. which kind of works, but there's a lot of problems when you use moving projectiles, because you effectively can't lead targets anymore if you do that. That really only works with raycast weaponry. So I need a better way of doing this. Another option is to just have 2 reticules, and since I am going for like a spaceflight sim, that might be the better option, a near reticule and a far reticule. I think that might be the route I go. So we'll just say then that the gun is going to shoot at some fixed position, and I'll manually calibrate the reticule and the gun aiming to make sure that it intersects where I intend it to intersect. Okay. So then, we'll go ahead and make a new weapon. I guess I can just do this. We'll call this Blaster. Well, I don't really need another folder for that. I can just do a script. Call it Blaster Weapon. And we'll extend Abstract Weapon. Okay. So the amount of ammunition it has a base amount. So we'll do export var base rounds int equals, I don't know, 50. Then we'll do export var fire rate float equals, I don't know, maybe when I express it in the system, like 10 rounds a minute. So what would be good? Like 300, maybe 300 rounds a minute. Okay, so then I need, so while I'm in here, I should probably move that above shoot just for consistency. Copy both of these into the blaster weapon, and we'll add a variable for shooting, and then we'll need one for var rounds or remaining rounds int equals base rounds. Okay, so we'll return if remaining rounds is greater than 0, and then shoot, we'll say shooting equals true. There is potentially a problem here where if you just set shoot to true and you never set it to false, there can be a problem. Where one of the issues is, when do you unset it? Because if you just do it in the physics process here, I've run into problems in past jams where I learned the hard way that there doesn't seem to be a guarantee in Godot where a parent and its child physics process runs. I've found, at least what has seemed to be the case, where one node, one child, its physics process was running before its parent, and another child at the same level, a sibling, was running after its parent. So that causes problems if you try to unset a flag. Generally, that's why I prefer to have a method where you have to explicitly tell it to start and stop doing something. So I think that's going to be what I do here. So we will say maybe shoot, and we'll just say active. Shooting equals active, or we'll say if can shoot, then shooting, oh, actually we'll do if active and can shoot, then shooting equals true. Else, actually I don't even need to do that, I can just copy that. There we go, that's easy. Oh, right, doesn't match the signature because I changed it. Happy. All right, there we go. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is just add a physics process. Or actually, probably not a physics process. I probably want to do a timer for this. So I need to calculate how often to fire a projectile. And that needs to be probably done as a timer because it's not great to do that just by calculating an offset in physics. Because if you just calculate how much time has elapsed, I mean, I guess you can get away with it if you accumulate delta time, but the problem you can run into is if the game gets paused, weird things can start to happen. So a timer would probably be the better way of doing this. So I'm going to need a shot timer. We'll just use a timer. I think that's a timer node. Yeah, I think scene tree is a different thing. All right, so we'll do in ready. And for the moment, I'm just going to have its time set at ready, and I'm not going to allow fire rate to be changed during the gameplay. I don't know off the top of my head if I'm going to allow a power up to let you change the fire rate. I don't think I will. That sounds like too much scope for a jam. Okay, so we will do, what is the field called? Is it time left or is it wait time? I think it's wait time I want to set, not time left. I always forget with this thing. Oh yeah, read only. There we go. Okay, so wait time. So fire rate is in rounds per minute. So I need to convert that into a delay. Okay, so if I want to get rounds per second, divide by 60. And divide by 60 again? Is that right? Rounds per second. Yeah, so that would be... Oh, I have a math degree and I have to do basic division in a calculator. Great. Okay, so 300 divided by 60. That gets me 5 rounds per second. Or no, that would not be 5 rounds a second. That would be insane. Oh, wait, no. Oh, my brain is not mathing today. Streamer brain. Okay. Let's think about that. So we're just going to YOLO it. We're just going to do fire rate and we'll figure this out as I go. So actually now I'm second guessing whether or not I even want to define it as rounds per minute because that's not a super intuitive number for me. Yeah, no, that would be 5 rounds a second. It just seems really high. So 5 times 60 is 300. Yeah, okay. So then 5 divided by 60. What? Or no, 60 divided by 5 maybe? Now what am I thinking? Not divided by 60. That would be ridiculous. So 300 rounds per minute. And a minute is 60 seconds, which means we're firing 5 rounds every second. So then we need to do that. So the wait time is 1 divided by 5. That's what it is. Yeah. So 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. Yes. Okay. I think this could be horrifically wrong. We'll find out. Okay. All right. So that sets that. And then the other thing I want to do is make sure that auto start is off. And then we're going to add child. Shot timer. We'll make it internal just so that it doesn't come up. Very rarely does this matter if you make something internal or not. But out of habit, I like to make stuff internal explicitly. Just so that it doesn't come back in get children, just in case I want to add something as a child in the UI or in the the scene editor there. Okay, so then I need some way to start it. So we will see, we'll do was shooting. Cool, equals shooting. Okay. And if not was shooting and is shooting, then we start the timer. And the other thing I want to do actually is I want to make sure I set this to loop. Or no, I want to set one shot to off. That's what I want to do. Okay, there we go. Okay, so then that will start it automatically. And then I need to set a callback for a signal. .timeout.connect on shoot timeout. No, we'll do on shot timeout. Okay. So what we will do here is we will say if remaining rounds is greater than 0, then we will do remaining rounds minus equals 1. Else we will set shooting to false. And we will stop the timer. Actually, you know what? I don't even need a shooting variable because I can just detect whether or not the shot timer is running. If true, the timer is paused. The pause timer does not process until it's set. Stops the timer. So, unlike start, this can safely be called if the timer is not inside the scene tree. Note calling stop does not emit the timeout signal as the timer is not considered to have timed out. Yeah, okay, so auto start, ignore timescale, one shot paused, process callback, time left, wait time. Actually, I take it back. I don't know if there is a way to figure out if the timer is running super easily. Okay. So we will say if the remaining rounds is greater than 0, else we'll stop it, which is fine. I don't like having state split across two things is the reason why I have to keep them in sync now. But we will go ahead and add a child. I'm going to need some kind of projectile, but for the moment, I think what I'm going to do is just add, we need to add some kind of mesh instance or something to the scene. And I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to have it add the projectiles as children of itself, but I'm going to set them as top level. That way it can manage cleaning up the unused projectiles or imposing a limit on the maximum number that can be in the game. Okay, so then how do I want to handle that? The projectiles are going to need to impart the velocity of the ship too. So each projectile is going to need some way to be told, move in this direction at this speed. And my initial thought is to use like a kinematic body or an animatable body and potentially just take the position of the gun in its forward direction and just multiply that and use that to set the velocity on the animatable body. Because I think, let me see real quick, if you do an animatable body 3D, can you give them a fixed, yeah, you can give them a constant linear velocity. Okay, well, for the moment, I'm just going to add a projectile. So we will just say var projectile, we'll just call that a node 3D. equals, I don't know, mesh instance 3d.new. We'll just say projectile mesh equals sphere mesh.new. And then we will just do add child projectile. And then the last thing I need to do is do projectile.position equals to the current global position. Okay. And those aren't going to move, which is fine because the player is going to be moving. So I'll worry about that in a minute. I think probably what I'll do is make some sort of emitter that will just emit projectiles, or projectile emitter. But at least for the moment, that should be fine. So then over here, we will add a blaster weapon. And we will make that unique. And we will just chuck that down here. Then I will grab a reference to it. And then in player input, I will get a function for is shooting. And we'll just say shoot. I don't know how I'm going to handle a secondary weapon at the moment, so we're just going to call it that. Okay, so on the controller, I'm going to use the trigger. And on the mouse and keyboard, I'm just going to use left click for the moment. Actually, I might map space as well, actually. We'll just keep that as a backup. So then what I'm tempted to do is actually pass the player input into the weapons, but I think that's going to make them too tied to the player because I'd like to reuse these same weapon scripts with the enemies. So what I'll do at the moment is just say in physics process down here, if, well, actually all we really have to do is say blaster weapon dot shoot and just pass in player input dot is shooting. Okay, now let me double check the blaster weapon. So that will okay, so if that elif not shooting actually we'll say, yeah, elif not shooting, we'll do timer.stop. This is probably horrifically wrong, but we will find out. Okay, did that actually drop an item? Oh, pressing the wrong button, that would help. Okay, I can see the items are bizarrely in front of me, which is a little bit of a confusing change. I wasn't expecting that to happen. Where is the gun at? Okay, the gun is right there. So why are these getting spawned? Okay, well, I know part of the reason. Projectile dot top level equals true. That would help. Okay, yeah, I think those are spawning correctly now. Kind of hard to tell because they're spawning inside me. All right, yeah. Am I still firing those or am I out of ammo? Okay, yeah, I'm out of ammo. All right. So they are shooting. I'm not entirely certain that they're shooting at the right rate, but they are shooting. Other thing, this boost tank, I'm going to bring that down to 0.1, that up to 2. Okay, so the blaster weapon is now shooting, but it's going to need a projectile that can actually be fired in a specific direction. There's a few different ways I could handle that. I could do a custom node. I'm tempted to try just doing it with an animatable body, though. Yeah, that is a little bit problematic because there isn't... You can't really create an interface in Godot, truly. You can make an abstract class, but not an interface. So I think I'm just going to have to use duck typing here so that I can set the velocity of the projectile. The alternative would be that the projectile somehow has to detect the player velocity and add its own velocity to it, but that just sounds like that's going to be a mess and really error prone. So we're going to go ahead and just do a new scene, and we're going to do... I feel like an animatable body is the right call here, because a character body doesn't really make sense. Well, I guess a character body could, but I don't think for blaster shots it doesn't really make sense, because they're not really going to... If they collide with something, they're just going to explode anyways. Oh, that's animated sprite every time. There we go. Animatable body. That's what I wanted. We'll call this a blaster bolt. Okay, sync to physics. And we're going to lock all of the axes. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that through a script. Whenever I've got a root node on a scene, I find it's a really bad idea to edit any of the stuff over here in the inspector on the root node. And the reason why is because inevitably you'll end up with it desynced between whenever you create an instance of it somewhere, where you'll accidentally change it. You'll like change it here, and then at some point you'll want to change it to a different value, and you try to do that through code and it's not working because it's getting overridden in the scene and just all kinds of mess. So usually if you have something over here that you want to change on the root node of a scene, I would highly recommend just changing it in the ready of your script instead. If it doesn't have a script, it's less of a problem, but I just highly recommend that because it'll save you a lot of headaches in the long run. And it's as good as time as any. I should probably set up my collision layers. So we'll call that static, or I don't know, blocking geometry. We'll do player on level 2, not plater. Player, and then level 3 we'll do projectile. And then the Proto Jam framework that I'm using has a damage system, and the damage system has its own filtering mechanism and layering system separate from the collision layer, but it does need a collision layer to operate. So I'm going to reserve this for damage on layer 32 so it doesn't interfere with anything, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so then I'll need a collision shape 3D on this. We'll just do a simple sphere shape. I don't know, 0.5 is fine. And well, yeah, 0.5 is fine. And then I'm just going to do a mesh instance for the visuals. I'll probably change this to some sort of billboard sprite later, but for now, a mesh is an easy enough way to go. And we'll just give that, we'll just load a material. We'll give it a one of the test textures. Okay, so blaster bolt, we'll come over here to scenes. We'll do, I don't know, projectiles. Blaster bolt. Okay, and then we'll add a script to it. Last name, blaster bolt. and it's going to need some way to set its velocity. So we will do, well, I guess the constant linear velocity actually probably should work. I might not even need that script. We'll see. One thing I am going to do though is in ready, I'm going to change the collision layer, and we're going to put it on what, 3, value 4, and then the mask, I'm just going to leave it 1 for now, because I'm going to add a hitbox around it, so that it will smash and destroy itself if it runs into anything. So I don't necessarily need the mask. In fact, I don't even think that animatable bodies use their mask, now that I think about it. Actually a good point. I don't think they do use their mask. I'm not going to worry about locking those because I don't think that does anything on an animatable body anyways. The one thing I do need to do is enable continuous. Is that not an option here? Physics body, collision. Oh, maybe that's only something you can do with character bodies. Here is continuous collision detection mode. That's interesting. I thought there was an option for that there. Maybe that's only rigid bodies that have that, now that I think about it. Let me actually try adding one just to double check that I'm not crazy. Ah, yeah, there it is. Continuous collision detection. Okay. Well, whatever. It doesn't really matter for this then. All right, now this is going to need some kind of timer so that it automatically destroys itself if it goes too far. Although I'm inclined to actually have the blaster weapon itself keep track of how many bolts it spawned and just recycle the oldest ones. That way I'm not constantly reallocating things. And then I can just let the ones that miss just infinitely fly off into the distance. So yeah, I guess I'll forego the timer for now. But at least for testing then, on the blaster weapon, where are we at? Oh, there we go, blaster weapon. Whenever we spawn a projectile, I guess one thing I will do is set top level equal to true here. That way the weapon isn't responsible for doing that. Okay, so then I need to do projectile. We will create an instance of this. So we'll grab the blaster bolt. Just grab a reference and we'll do scene. Act scene. Make that private because there's really no reason for it not to be. Hey, how's it going? Trying to desperately remember my math degree and make projectiles work in this game. What's up with you? Are you participating in the Wild Jam or are you just stopping by? Let's see, projectile dot, what do I want to call that? It'd be constant linear velocity. Yeah, so I need to do, oh, trying to learn Godot. Yeah, there's a I'd like to say it's an easy journey, but there's definitely a lot to learn. I am going for a first-person space combat shooter, but kind of not like full simulator, but kind of a more of an arcadey feel. So the theme for this Wild Jam is bounty, and I think almost everybody looking at the Discord decided to go with bounty hunters. And Wild Jam, if you've never done it before, has a optional secondary thing called wild cards, which are just sort of optional themes you can do that they don't really affect your scoring. But one of them was shooting stars. So the idea I had is that I'm going full capitalism in saying that humanity has exhausted all of their resources to the point where they send out bounty hunters to go harvest shooting stars. So the idea is that you're a bounty hunter, you go into a map, there's a bunch of enemy bounty hunters that you have to shoot down so that you can collect the star, and then whenever you complete a mission, you'll get credits that you can use to buy upgrades for your ship, but the upgrades are going to be like a Resident Evil style inventory where they physically take space and you have to Tetris them into your ship to equip them. And that's basically going to be it. Just I've only got about a week left for this jam, so gameplay loop is basically just going to be you go into a mission, shoot some stuff, or you leave if you run out of ammo or take too much damage. Some amount of repairs and stuff cost comes out of your credits, and you rearm, pick a mission, go into the mission, and probably after like 5 missions or something, there's going to be some number of credits you had to have earned to beat the game. So it's kind of keeping it relatively low scope. So at the moment, we've got the player movement is working. It's not super polished. There's no like camera sway or camera shake or anything, but the ability to boost is there. The ability for the boost to recharge is there, and 3D flight is working. So now I'm just working on the weapon systems. I'm glad it sounds good to you. I honestly think I've probably overscoped massively on this one, so we'll find out whether or not it actually works. How's the Godot learning going? If you got any questions or anything about Godot, be happy to try and answer them for you while I'm fighting with this. And I don't need that. We'll set the position. We'll do constant linear velocity. So I'm going to need to calculate the velocity of the ship. We'll just set it to forwards for now. Vector 3 dot forward times basis times global basis, I think. Okay, so times global basis, and then we'll do, I don't know, 30 or something for the speed. Okay. I think that will work. Or, you know what, actually I'm going to go with faster than that. I'll go 60. Oh, nice. Flappy Bird. Yeah, I think the first game I ever did was in an old game engine called Multimedia Fusion 2, which like a later version of it is what Scott Cawthorne used to do Five Nights at Freddy's, at least the first one. But it's like an old application. And the first thing I did with it was Breakout, because that was what the tutorial for it had me do. So you definitely got to start small with game dev, because there's so much to learn. I think it was one of the engine programmers for Bungie had said a long time ago that they considered game development more difficult than working on the Hadron Collider, because everything has to be done in real time, and there's all these different systems and things you have to balance. Yeah, it's never ending, but I promise it will get easier. Once you get over like the syntax of your whatever programming language you're using, or if you're using a drag and drop style interface, like Construct or something like that. Once you get past that and you get into some of the fundamentals of game design, once you get past the technical side and into the actual design aspect, it gets a lot more fun and a lot easier. Okay, so let's see if shooting actually works now or not. Oh, okay, there we go. Something worked. Those are definitely moving. Okay, cool. I'm not sure how some of those ended up behind me, but that's interesting. Let's try just setting that to 30 and see if that works. Oh, wait, what? Why are they stopping? What? Why can I only shoot in one direction? What did I do? Oh man, I really screwed that up. Oh, okay, I think I see what's happening. They're all shooting. Okay, they're all shooting that way. Why are they stopping? What in the heck? Does that What? What on earth is happening there? Constant linear velocity equals the global basis times forward. I would have thought that would have worked. Maybe that's doing something. Maybe there's an order of operations thing there. Okay. This constant linear velocity, this does not rotate. Oh no, this one. Does not move the body. Wait. Oh. Oh, okay, I'm dumb. That does not do what I thought it did. I thought that was actually setting the velocity. I feel like that's the third time I've probably made that same mistake. Well, there you go. There's a tip for Godot. Constant linear velocity on an animatable body does not actually make the body move. I feel like I've learned that lesson like 6 or 7 times now, and I've been using Godot for like 3 years, and I still keep making that mistake and forgetting that you actually need to move it. Okay, so how am I going to move this instead? So if blaster bolt, what does the documentation say? It's moved, its linear velocity is calculated. Okay, so it comes from a static body. Oh, okay, so I literally just need to move the, just change the position. Okay. Right, so we will just do export var velocity. Okay, velocity equals 0. Oh, no, that needs to be a vector 3. And we will just put in the physics process. If I can spell. All right, so we will do global position plus equals velocity times delta. One thing I'll say, actually, since you mentioned learning Godot, I would highly recommend potentially starting with a project template if you haven't already. So that's basically something set up that gives you like scene transitions or settings management or something like that. There's a few different ones that work like that, but they just allow you to kind of get past some of the hairier parts. Like trying to do scene transitions is actually kind of a pain. Nobody likes implementing the system for that, and everybody either writes their own system and then just reuses it for every game, or they use a system from like a library or a project template so they don't have to worry about it. So like even for this jam here, I have an add-on I wrote called Proto Jam that has my scene transition code in it, so I don't have to do that myself. So that's just kind of my general recommendation, is when you're trying to learn Godot or something like that, there's a lot of stuff you want to do, and you want to just get into making games so that you don't lose momentum. But the moment, you know, you have to start fighting with some of the hairier, nastier aspects like scene management, you can get really demoralized and not want to keep learning anymore because you're not making games, you're just staring at code all day. So finding a framework or something to help you with that is a good way to get started. Okay, so, all right, so that will take the velocity and the delta. Okay. So then all I'm going to do in the blaster weapon is just say projectile dot velocity equals that. Okay, so that should hopefully work now. Nope, that does not work. Are the projectiles actually going anywhere? Wait, why is it working now? Okay, well, they're kind of working. Huh. But wait, why wasn't it working at the start then? What? Why are some of them shooting out of the corner? What is going on? Okay. Well, that's kind of weird. I was not expecting that. Huh. Is that... Okay, that is happening in physics process, so that shouldn't be the issue. Huh. All right, blaster scene. We're getting that. Global basis times forward times 30. Okay. Let's try that again. Yeah, okay. Why? Yeah, okay. Even when I pull the trigger, nothing happens. Why is sometimes nothing happening? Why did that one just shoot up there? What is going on? Oh, that is weird. Okay, I think I know what's happening. I thought I was avoiding this because I think global position, if I recall, doesn't work. I don't think you can set global position like that. Yeah, no, that causes an error. You can't do that. Yeah, you can only set position, not global position. Oh, I know what's happening. Yeah, okay. Let's see if this fixes that. Well, okay. Kind of fixed it, but not in the way I expected it to. Yeah, so having it be top level is part of the problem. Okay, so that happens in ready. Okay. Yeah, so I think part of the problem is that it's basically getting set relative to my position, and then it's being set to the global position like a frame later, and that's what's causing that flickering and making them move in the wrong direction. I've run into a problem like that before. That's kind of a pain. I didn't think setting position would cause that, but I bet it's because I'm setting top level to true here. I bet if I do projectile dot top level equals true there, and then I do global position there. Actually, if true, the node does not inherit its transformation of its parent. Yeah, okay. Let's try doing it that way and see if that fixes it. Yeah, I'm not seeing it do the weird glitchy thing anymore. Yeah, sure enough, I think that was what was causing it. Okay. Okay, so that fixed that. I guess in Blaster Bolt, I just won't do this then. All right. So that allows me to set the velocity. I'll probably set that to like 50 or something instead. And I'm going to go into the player. And I'm going to try something. I'm going to try moving the blaster like down a little bit so it's not in the camera. Okay, well that kind of helps. Also, I'm going to change the default amount of ammo for testing. This is a little low. So we're going to come in here on the blaster weapon itself. We're going to say the base rounds is 5,000. There we go. I don't have to worry about this anymore. Okay. Yeah, I can see a couple problems that are going to come up with aiming. One is that when I'm turning, these things are really, really out of sync. They either need to shoot a lot faster to offset how quickly I'm turning, or if that's not going to work, then I need to use some kind of adaptive targeting that tries to lead them to where I'm currently aiming. Because this is, I think, going to be very annoying to try and hit anything with the shots trailing that far behind. So let's try something. We can do, in the blaster weapon, we'll come in here and we'll do export var projectile speed. We'll do 60. Okay. And we'll see if that helps. Okay, that kind of helps. I think I also want the fire rate to be higher. That's a little slow. We'll go up to like 600. Also, actually, let me test something. So one round, let me do 60. So if I'm right, that should fire once per second. Make sure that we're not 16. Come on. Let's try that. So make sure that this is actually calculating the fire rate correctly. So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, yep, okay. Nice, I actually got that right. All right, so let's try like 800 instead. Because I intend these to be really low yeah, there we go. That feels better. Okay. All right, I still have to fix that issue where they're way too close to me. One idea is I could physically move it forward in front of me. Yeah, that doesn't exactly work. By the time I'm moving fast enough that by the time they spawn, I'm already inside of them again. Okay. Well, I can drop it down further. Yeah, and this is where I get into the... What the heck? Oh, maybe that problem is still here. Huh. That's interesting. They're like moving backwards and then jumping forwards again. Huh. That is really strange. I'm not 100% certain why that would be happening. Huh. That's interesting. Why would that be happening to these projectiles? Why are they changing direction? I wonder if this has to do with the top level issue again. That's really bizarre. Okay. Yeah, physics process, global position equals velocity times delta. Yeah, that should be fine. Top level. Position equals global position, top level equals true. Okay, I'm curious now. If I unset those, this is going to cause all the projectiles to move with me, which is not good. Oh, interesting. It still happens. Okay. All right. Well, that isn't from it being top level then. That's something else. I wonder if it has something to do with the basis being out of date. That might be what's happening. I did enable physics interpolation, so I wonder if what's actually happening here is it's interpolating the positions incorrectly. That might be what's happening. Okay, let me try something. If I go into the project settings, and I go down to the common physics settings, and I turn off, if I can find the common, oh, there it is. And I turn off physics interpolation really quick. I've got a feeling this might be an interpolation problem. Oh, wow, that looks bad. Okay, let me also turn the frame rate up. Oh, actually, maybe yeah, this probably is a physics interpolation problem. Yep, sure enough, it doesn't do it when you turn the frame rate up. Yeah, okay. So it is a physics interpolation problem going on here. I'm guessing it's because I'm setting the projectile to top level and then overriding its position. It's probably teleporting it, which is screwing with the physics interpolation of the mesh. So I believe there is a way to tell Godot that you want to change the position and force reinterpolation. So we will lower that back down so we get the issue again. Just make sure that we are getting the projectiles. Yep, okay, so I can see the issue with the projectiles veering off. Okay. Let me check if I go into... Actually, there's a global transform interpolated. I wonder if that would work here. Okay, let me do a quick search on this. Godot physics interpolation. Yeah, reset physics interpolation. Yeah, okay. That's what I need to do. So on projectile, I think I can just do... Yeah, there we go. Reset physics interpolation. And let's see if that fixes it. No. Okay, that does not fix it. Interesting. Huh. Okay. That's unexpected. Let me try actually what happens if I do that after it's been added to the scene. Maybe this is... No, okay, doesn't work there either. All right. Fair enough. Interesting. I can try doing it in ready. We'll see if that does anything. Let me read the docs for this. When is active, moving a node to a radically different transform can result in a visual glitch, rendering moving from the old position to the new position. Can be prevented by calling this method until the physics tick is complete. After moving the node rather than before. Okay, so I am doing it the way you're supposed to. Let's just try calling it in ready. No, that does not fix it. So it's related to physics interpolation because turning it off fixes it. But resetting physics interpolation does not stop whatever's happening. Interesting. I wonder if it's the camera then, perhaps. Maybe the camera itself is rapidly snapping between two locations, and it just looks like the projectile is veering off because of that. Okay. Maybe. That really doesn't make sense, though. I would have expected this to work. Okay, well, resetting physics interpolation doesn't work, so I'm going to add a note to the README about there being something wrong with, yeah. Come in here and say, projectile interpolation is wonky. Highly technical term for that. Oh, and I did fix gimbal lock, so I can take that out. Let's see, what are we at? So I would say the camera controller is effectively done. shooting is kind of implemented. All I need to do is I need to come in here and I need to add a hurt box. And then I need to add a collision shape. And this collision shape will just be a capsule, or not capsule. We'll do a sphere. Yep, okay, perfect. What? Oh, that's right. This doesn't take a... I need a damage box, that's right. And then that needs a collision shape. There we go. Okay, and then this thing needs a damage generator to work. We will do a static damage generator for now. And the source layer will be 1, which I'm going to count as the player. And the type layer doesn't matter, and we'll just say the damage is 1. Probably need to supply the damage generator dynamically, but for now we'll just do that. Actually, I'm definitely going to need to do it dynamically. Because I'm going to need to supply who did the damage. Okay, well, we'll deal with that later. Okay, so now that should be able to hurt things, which is good. I don't think either of these has continuous collision detection as an option. Yeah, that's not a thing, so should be fine. All right. So we have shooting implemented, and theoretically we can cause damage. Whether or not that's actually true is kind of a different story. So for debugging purposes, I'm going to go ahead and add in another bar. So progress bar. And we're going to do this one. Actually, let's do a VBox container first. So we'll put a VBox container, we'll put the boost bar there, and then we'll add this under it, and we'll do from bottom to top on that one. We're going to shrink to the side. Expand vertically and shrink to the side. And give it like a minimum width of like 64 or probably 32. Okay, we'll call that blaster ammo. This is not the actual HUD for the game. The game is going to use a 3D HUD, but we'll just do this for simplicity's sake. Actually, I guess the ammo or the abstract weapon probably should return ammo. So we'll do get ammo. Okay, so in the blaster weapon, we'll just do func get ammo, and we'll return remaining rounds. Actually, you should probably do... Well, yeah, we'll just stick with that for now. What? Where are you? Okay, I don't know what that's about, why it's saying that I didn't implement that when I did. Whatever. Hopefully that doesn't error out on me. Okay, so I'm going to delete that and probably just change it to a label then. Okay, so we'll do that, and we'll do blaster ammo label. And we'll just do the same thing where over here in UI, keep these separate so I don't forget to remove them later. And then for debugging, we'll do that. And we'll also need to grab, oh, we have the blaster weapon. Dot text equals str blaster weapon dot get ammo. Move those down there. Okay, perfect. So now I can actually see the ammo. Yeah, the more I think about it, I think this is a glitch with the camera, not with the projectile itself. I think what's either happening is it's the mesh itself trying to predict the velocity and not doing well. Because it could be that maybe animatable bodies don't work very well with physics interpolation. I'm not 100% certain on that. That could be part of it, and the fact that I'm giving it a velocity could be messing with it. Or it could be the camera itself is rapidly shifting, which makes it look like there's a problem. It's definitely some kind of interpolation issue though, because it's moving the projectile forwards straight in front of me and not factoring in the fact that the camera is turning. Which is what's making me suspicious that it's the camera itself causing this problem. But I don't see anything else flickering in a weird way, which is what makes me think that it's not the camera. Either way, I will need to implement some kind of limit on how many of these can exist in the level, either with a timer, because I can actually feel the game is starting to slow down already, because I fired like 1,000 of these things. Okay. Well, I've got projectiles in. I intended to have a little bit more of the combat system in by now, but my brain's kind of fried working on this, and that physics interpolation issue is kind of giving me a headache. I need to spend some time thinking about that and as to what might be causing it, because I really don't want to leave it in that state and continue on. I think next time, let's see what's on the to-do list. I probably won't be coming back on tonight, but I will probably do some offline work. I want to get the bomb, grenade, whatever, implemented, so that I can consider shooting done. And then I think what I'd like to do is try and finish the game loop. So implement the ability to actually complete the level. Or I may do... Actually, you know what I might do instead is start implementing the AI, because that's going to be a major part. So as soon as I get that in, we'll start playing around with the AI. Because at the end of the day, if the perk system and the inventory system don't make it in, or even if the shooting star doesn't make it in, I'm still at least meeting the bounty hunter part of the jam. The rest of it is all kind of optional wildcard stuff, so I can cut that if I need to for time. So let me reorder these a little bit. So the drone AI needs to come after shooting. I think the asteroids need to be there as well, and I think the scoring... Oh, and I got the boost component done, so I can consider that wrapped up. Yeah, and then we'll do the shooting star, the inventory system, the perk skill component. Actually, the perk skill component would be first. Then the inventory system. Well, no, that's not true. It would be the... I guess they're kind of the same thing. Okay. Alright. That actually doesn't look too bad then. Alright. Well, that's all I've got for today, probably. If there's any VOD watchers watching and you're participating in the jam, I hope you do well. and may drop a comment what you're working on. Really interested to know what everybody's come up with for this one. But that's it for me today. I'll probably be back on tomorrow. Take it easy.